Thanks for joining us for the new AFC small groups. Each week we'll have a 3 to 5 minute video which will hopefully explain the part of the text that we're looking at for that week, as well as open up some discussion for the group. We're doing a study on the life of Abraham, and some might think that's a unique thing for us to be doing a study on. Why are we spending so much time in the Old Testament looking at this man that's found called Abraham? What's interesting is Abraham is the foundation not for one or two but three main faiths. The Quran says that Abraham is the second most important man in the entire world. That there's 188 Bible references that talk about the life of Abraham. Jews believe that they are sons, that they are children of Abraham. And Christians believe that Jesus fulfilled the promises of Abraham. And when you turn to the New Testament, if you get a New Testament which talks about the life of Jesus and is explaining how he lived and what he did here on earth, when you turn to the very first book, the very first chapter, in the book of Matthew, chapter 1, verse 1, here's what it says. A record of the genealogy of Jesus. So talking about the life of Jesus, the son of David, the son of Abraham. So you almost get the idea that if you're going to understand Jesus, you have to understand this man named Abraham. And within the New Testament, Abraham's talked about 70 different times, and 3 times he's called a friend of God. And so there's a lot of benefit in studying the life of Abraham. One, because he teaches us a lot about Jesus, and number 2, he teaches us a lot about ourselves, because Abraham is a lot like we are. He has moments in his life where he has great faith and does amazing things. Then he has lots of times in his life where he shows an amazing lack of faith. Today we're looking at Genesis 13, and to understand Genesis 13, you have to remember how Abraham's life starts off in Genesis 12. In Genesis 12, God comes to Abraham and tells him something very specific to do. Here's what it says in Genesis 12, 1 through 3. The Lord has said to Abram, "Leave your country and your people and your father's household, and go to the land that I'll show you, and I'll make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I'll bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the people on earth will be blessed through you." It is in those verses that God makes a promise to Abraham, and is calling Abraham to believe those promises through faith. And what we see throughout the life of Abraham is we see moments where he believes those promises and holds to those, and we see times in his life where he doesn't believe those promises. In Genesis 12, it's hard to see it in English, but in the Hebrew, the word breathe comes up several times. And the idea is this, is you breathe in and you breathe out. You breathe in blessing, you breathe out blessing. And there's sometimes in Abraham's life he forgot to breathe out. And so he kept breathing in the blessing of God, but he never did breathe it out. One of those times is in Genesis 12, verses 10 through 20. And what we see at that moment is we see Abraham having a lack of faith in the promises of God. And so instead of trusting God, that God's going to take care of him, provide for him, he decides that I have to watch out for myself, I have to take care of myself, God's not going to take care of me, so I'm going to go down in Egypt where I can better take care of myself. Which turned out to be a major mistake within his life. But God's faithful. And God brought him back to the place, to the land, to the home that he desired Abraham to live in. But because of that journey, now he has another problem that we find out about in Genesis 13. In Genesis 13, he has a problem with his nephew Lot. And the problem is that they both have so much cattle, they're so wealthy that the land can't sustain it, and so they're having a dispute over who should get the different parts of the land. And Abraham makes a decision. He makes a decision to trust God, and that when he blesses others, he will also be returned with blessing. So Abraham had every right to the land, he is the patriarch, to pick the best spot. But instead, he allowed Lot to pick the prized part, and Abraham took the second best, if you will. And what that decision showed was several things. One, it showed that he deeply trusted God. And what it brought him was this. It brought him great freedom. Freedom from family strife, freedom from worry, freedom from thinking that he's ultimately in charge, freedom to rest in the provision of God. And instead of Abraham saying, I want blessing, bless me, instead Abraham said, you know what? I want to be a blessing. For all of us who love Jesus and know him as Savior, one of the things is we don't have to worry about grabbing all that we can. We don't have to worry about watching out for ourselves. We don't have to worry about if we're going to be taken care of. We can be a blessing for others. We can be a blessing because we've been blessed. Too often we are like Lot, and we just try to go out and grab all we can. And maybe life would be better, and maybe we would look a little bit more like Jesus, is if this week we decided, instead of trying to find out how we can be blessed, instead we decided to be a blessing for others. Do well this week.